Now, if you're sitting there in the pits of fourth and somebody comes to you and says the phrase unconditional love, quite often the way that you imagine that is kind of like unlimited money. And you think of it as, oh, I can do anything and still have approval, something like that. You don't actually know what love even vaguely means. And therefore, unconditional love, you haven't got a clue what it actually means. Now, if you think about it in the context of just good parenting, so every parent should give their child unconditional love. I'm going to say that absolutely categorically. Right? If there's anything in the world that I believe with experience, it is that. Now, that does not mean that every parent should indulge their child by giving them their approval. Certainly doesn't mean that every parent should give their child unconditional candy, right?
Right.
Candy and love are not the same thing.
Right. There's still boundaries, right?
Unconditional love is a crucible more than it is anything else, right? Unconditional love is that I make a commitment to so fully love you that I seek in all ways through that love to support you in becoming the highest version of yourself. And I'm in partnership with your soul. And your soul is not kind. Right? Your soul knows that to grow, you have to go through. There's an undergoing in growth. And to unconditional love is to be fully in relationship with your soul's calling for you to grow into becoming who it is you are to become on this earth, which may actually have a great deal of suffering involved. Right? If I see a man on the street, I actually remember this, and I'll sort of out myself a little bit. I was in an ayahuasca ceremony, and the question, the inquiry that I put to myself was the question of what is mine to do. And as it turns out, in the ceremony, there was a young man, probably in his early 20s, who had been able to get his father, his grandmother, and his aunt, but not his mother. I don't know what happened there, to join them. And they were definitely not the kind of folks you'd expect to be in this kind of a scenario. And Dad was sitting next to me. And Dad had a very tough time. And Dad was undergoing some serious suffering, and I think he may have been a Vietnam veteran. So he was going through some world-class suffering. And part of me wanted to reach out to him. And I was feeling his suffering, and I was feeling oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden it just came clear to me oh, this is my lesson. My lesson is to actually love him unconditionally, which does not mean to carry his cross for him. Quite the opposite. It's to actually figure out with as much discernment as I can muster, which may not be much right now, precisely what is mine to do in relationship to him, and precisely what is his to do in relationship to himself. And that's parenting again, right? Parenting as a child. Your job as a parent is not to lift your child's burden, and your job is not to put on your child a burden that's not theirs to carry. It's to support them in growing in their own capacity, to discover for themselves, to build in themselves an increasing capacity to notice what is theirs to do and how to actually hold the cross that is theirs to hold for the whole and for themselves to grow into who it is they're to become. It is an infinitely challenging task, and you will always get it wrong. That is it, though. That's the whole story. That's the beginning and the end. And I would just call that friendship, by the way. Once you recognize that every relationship is that relationship, and every relationship where you either try to lift or to impose a burden that is somebody else's is a sin, is an error of the most grievous sort. And that your own journey is a journey that gives you more capacity to learn how to discern that. Then I think we're starting to get into deep stuff.
Well, that's what Peter was trying to do with Jesus. He's like, don't die on a cross. I'll stop you. I'll save you. I'll protect you. And he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're still operating.
Peter, come on.
Yeah. But that's the thing.
By the way, Peter, I got bad news for you. You're actually trying to put down your own burden, which is the burden of witnessing me on the cross. Right? Be mindful of the fact. You're actually trying to avoid your own cross by pretending to carry mine.